There's this ancient Chinese meme credited to Confucius on how everything you need to know about Taoism, Dao Jiao, can be learned from the stories and characters of 6 ancestral sage kings. Grouped together in this assembly of 6, they represent the mysteries of Dao Jiao, Taoist mystical and spiritual practice.
When I say mysteries with the capital M, I'm referring to religious rites, rituals, mystical leaning practices, and a body of esoteric knowledge rooted in mythology. The 6 holy kings personify 6 powers, mastery over the 6 Akasha designated by the 6 line positions of I Ching hexagrams. Their legends are encoded with purportedly all the wisdom of the Tao you need to know to merit the mandate of heaven. They also represent the orthodox Taoist lineaged tradition, the Tǒng, meaning the Tao or teachings that's transmitted from one generation on to the next. Right up to the modern era with the Republic of China, Sun Yat-sen cited the importance of upholding the tradition and values of the 6 holy kings.
In an earlier video on the secret book of the 3 sovereigns, we cited a passage from that grimoire referencing the 6 inner alchemical powers cultivated by way of the yin and yang methods, meaning the occult arts, which the Lady of the 9 Heavens is a patron goddess of. The I Ching becomes a key for unlocking access to these 6 inner powers, and the 6 kings are a clue as to how we might acquire this key. In our introductory video to the I Ching Book of Change, we considered the innate qualities of each line in the 6-line hexagram, further underscoring the significance of the number 6. We'll talk about what Jing Fang's commentaries on the I Ching said about these 6 positions being 6 voids and how they're related to the 6 powers of the yin and yang occult arts. You've caught on by now that the seal of the 9 immortal realms brings you an empowerment by way of the mysterious Lady of the 9 Heavens, a protege of Shi Wangmu, the Queen Mother of the West, who has as her celestial attendants the 6 maidens. Recall also the legend of King Jian, who was aided by the Lady of the 9 Heavens, and once her work was done, left behind 6 black stones. You'll find an account of this story on pages 547 to 548 of my book, I Ching, the Oracle. Here's that line from the secret book of the 3 sovereigns on the 6 powers of yin and yang alchemical or occult operations. And here's the line from the I Ching 10 wings, and also Jing Fang's commentaries on the I, noting that these 6 lines of any given hexagram represent 6 hollows, 6 voids, or perhaps conceptually better translated to 6 Akasha. When certain yin or yang lines of code are written into each of these 6 hollows, these 6 Akasha, we get an I Ching hexagram, which is the coding that produces certain physical matter or events. In the example of hexagram 63, that code of yin and yang lines you see produces, for example, the event of harvest and reflection on what you've just harvested. And the 6 kings help us to understand the first principles of this coding system.
I know, you're getting impatient. When am I going to get to the actual kings? Just hold on. This stuff is interesting. At least to me it is. Why so many ancient civilizations saw the number 6 as magical, mystical, and sacred makes sense when you observe nature. In biological systems, the hexagon optimizes efficiency. Case in point, honeycombs or hexagonal cells, because that's the most efficient use of space while minimizing resource usage. Why do I mention that? The doctrine of 自然 and nature's inclination to take the path of least resistance. Nature and magic's inclination to take the path of least resistance. The hexagon also optimizes structural stability. Basalt is found in hexagonal columns to optimize thermal regulation, for example. The carbon atom in human biology forms bonds in a hexagonal pattern, carbon being essential to all life forms, as we know it. But back to the 6 Akasha.
The 10 wings of the I Ching makes reference to these 6 Akasha, and yes, that is the same word reference to the Akasha and inner astral realms, which Jing Fang's commentaries on the I Ching help to explain are the 6 hexagram lines that are the iconographic representations of these 6 inner powers activating the 6 Akasha. The Huangdi Neijing, or Inner Canons of the Yellow Emperor, the esoteric scriptures of the Yellow Emperor, further explains that the 6 Akasha are 6 powers, 6 combinations of change, which are changes driven by the 5 qi, or 5 movements, wuxing, which moves in a pair, the upper and the lower. In a previous video, we talked about the Dao De Jing in connection with the god Dao De Tianzun, who is a personification of the Dao De Jing. Personifying the principles of the Tao is an effective way to teach the Tao to the people. In the stele of our sacred or holy mother circa Eastern Han Dynasty, Dao De Tianzun is the total embodiment of these 6 ancestral kings, which represent the 6 Akasha, the 6 powers.
In bunches of classical and historical texts, you'll see the specific call out to the Sheng Wang of the 3 dynasties. In the video thumbnail, the title translates Sheng Wang to Holy Kings, which is accurate. Culturally, in terms of significance, the 6 kings are considered to be ancestral, wise, or sage kings as well, which is why in terms of referencing, you'll see me go back and forth between calling them sage kings, holy kings, and ancestral kings.
By way of introduction, 3 of the 6 kings are from the Xia Dynasty. Archaeologists will debate over evidence of a Xia Dynasty ever existing, but so far as lore and tradition goes, it is during this time that civilization advances in agriculture, metallurgy, our first writing system, astronomy, and astrology, and the kingdom is organized into 9 provinces in accordance with the Luoshu magic square. The 4th king is the founder of the Shang, who overthrew the Xia dynasty by way of revolution. It's in the Shang Dynasty that we get oracle bone divination and records of our shamanic religious tradition. The last 2 of the 6 kings are from the Zhou Dynasty, a pivotal era in history. We have King Wen of legendary I Ching fame and his son King Wu. It is during this era that we get Confucius, Taoism, and the initial introduction of Buddhism into China, though Buddhism hasn't quite hit popularity just yet.
The first is a shamanic king from the ancient Tang clan, Tang Shi, where culturally religious dance, drumming, and shamanism went hand in hand and attributed to the first of our 6 holy kings. Sima refers to him as the ideal monarch.
King Yao from the Neolithic Golden Age of Chinese history is claimed to be the great-great-grandson of the Yellow Emperor, Huangdi. This is around 2300 BC. According to the annals, King Yao is the reincarnation of a red dragon, which, sure, why not? Because allegedly, he also had a love affair with a goddess inside a cave, and then she gave birth to their baby, and then he emerged from that cave and never saw that goddess or his divine baby out of wedlock again. Some of the less crazy claims: his imperial court is credited with perfecting the lunar solar calendar system as we know it today. In his final years of reign, the great floods started and came down hard, ravaging his kingdom. According to lore, he abdicated his throne to Shun the Great, who is the next great king on our roster.
Oh, and he was either the reincarnation of a red dragon or his mother was impregnated by a red dragon and the resulting baby was the great King Yao. Yao represents potent yang force, is associated with the element fire and the red phoenix, in addition to the red dragon. There's a Chinese myth involving Hou, the archer who shoots down 9 of the 10 suns in the sky but leaves 1 remaining, which is why we have 1, not 10 suns in the sky, allegedly. Well, that happened during King Yao's reign. King Yao represents the cycle of time and how we track events on Earth in our world, our kingdom, by the movements of heaven, basically the seasonal cycle of time.
Shun the Great came after King Yao, and if you're wondering why an illustration of 2 women to accompany a commentary on Shun the Great, well, funny you ask. King Yao, who we just mentioned, gave his 2 precious daughters to Shun in marriage, and these 2 women are the center or the cause of so many of the fun Shun the Great stories. Shun was born a poor peasant boy into tragic circumstances of abject suffering. Worse yet, he endured a horribly abusive father who kept trying to kill him. By age 17, Shun ends up homeless and on the streets. The legends of Shun as a cultural hero center around his filial piety and being highly skilled in many different areas. He was a talented farmer, a talented fisherman, hunter, warrior, and even craftsman. Shun the Great is characterized as one who was of high integrity, always serving the greater good of the people, was diligent and modest. But at this time, remember, the great floods are still raging and getting worse. It's Shun the Great who entrusts Yu the Great, our next sage king, with the taming of the great flood.
King Shun imparts the teaching that it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, highborn or lowborn. It's your integrity that matters, and how diligently you carry out your duties. How much occult or mystical power you can cultivate is not tied to your pedigree. It's tied to your character, and your character is tied to your actions.
Next is Yu the Great, who I've covered quite a bit already in previous videos. Be sure to check out the discussion on the Luoshu magic square. Yu the Great helps King Shun, the guy we just talked about with the two sister wives, stop the great flood, and he does this with a very Taoist philosophy. Up to this point, everyone's been trying to force the flooding to stop with dams. Instead, Yu gets the great idea of digging irrigation canals and creating pathways for the water to run. Don't force something to go against its nature. Facilitate it to behave aligned with its nature. Oh, and he too is allegedly related to the Yellow Emperor. Like seriously, everybody who was ever king was in some way related to the Yellow Emperor, allegedly.
Yu is the son of Gun, who initially was the one Emperor Yao tasked to control the Great Flood, but where his father Gun failed, Yu succeeded. Yu the Great teaches us the Taoist principle of Wu-wei, which initially seems counterintuitive because of how hard he worked, how much effort and dedication and, well, force he put into trying to tame the Great Flood. His whole objective is to counteract nature so that this great flood that Mother Nature brought won't wipe out humankind as we know it. But that's exactly it. Wu-wei isn't about doing nothing. It's about aligning your work and effort with the nature of things, which also goes into the principle of ziran. And so, the way you finally tamed the Great Flood was by carving out the land in such a way that the rain had pathways to go, to flow, rather than trying to stop or block the rain. Yu the Great in the succession of 6 kings represents line 3 of a 6-line hexagram. In the I Ching, that placement is representative of a critical and pivotal juncture point, where perseverance and caution is essential. In a way, you could say that Yu the Great teaches us the art and science of feng shui to build in harmony with nature, not in opposition against it. We've covered the 3 sage kings from the Xia Dynasty. We're now moving in to the second era, the Shang Dynasty.
Next up, Shang Wang, Emperor Tang, founding king of the Shang Dynasty. Politically savvy, this guy, who is the chief of the Shang clan, is playing 3-dimensional chess with the tribes of China and convinces them to help him overthrow the Xia rulers and install him as sovereign of the world. Well, the known world to the Chinese at the time. They seemed to have thought it was the whole world. He was quite the military warrior type, representative of martial arts. And in fact, that's what he goes down in history known for, using war, violence, and brutality to achieve his end goal. But once in power, he eased up and made it his priority to win over the people's hearts. The line text accompanying hexagram 49 in the I Ching Book of Change alludes to the revolution led by Tang.
As the 4th in succession, Emperor Tang, founder of the Shang Dynasty, tells us a lot about line 4 in the 6-line hexagram structure of our universe. This is about gaining momentum, pushing that momentum into the realm of actual change, garnering support and readiness for the next phase. King Tang, or Tang, we can say Tang, represents radical transformation and what it takes to put into motion dynamic and progressive systemic change. How do you go from having nothing to conquering everything? How do you actually lead a successful revolution? That is what we learn from our ancestral sage king number 4. We are now entering into the third era, the final of the three dynasties, the Zhou.
If you've been watching my channel or reading my books, then by now you already know about King Wen. He was imprisoned by the last king of the Shang Dynasty. While imprisoned, he receives a divine transmission which becomes the I Ching, through which he receives the revelation of the mandate of heaven.
In the I Ching structure of 6 lines, line 5 is the ruling line of each hexagram. Likewise, King Wen occupies the 5th position in the succession of 6 kings. This is the manifestation of change representing the height of something. King Wen represents the value of aligning oneself with the way of heaven. If you align with the way of heaven, then you will earn heaven's mandate. Here, in the most important of these 6 lines of a hexagram, line 5, it gets a bit meta, and we see the implied call out to divination itself. Divination is the method for ensuring that you are in alignment with the way of heaven. Divination, as it means in the context of the I Ching, also means simply deep introspective self-reflection, self-analysis, looking inward to hear the voice of your higher self. Divination is, in our view, just a form of calculus, a systematic, methodical way to calculate and analyze change. Even where the 3 dynasties are grouped in reference to the hexagrams is significant. The entire lower trigram, lines 1, 2, and 3 of a hexagram, are composed of the 3 sovereign kings from the Xia Dynasty. Line 4, where the forces of change pivot in its most crucial way, we get the single radical founding king from the Shang Dynasty. And then line 5, the ruling line of a hexagram, corresponds with none other than King Wen himself, the legendary creator of the I Ching divination system. We're now on to the final king corresponding with line 6.
King Wen's son, King Wu of Zhou, becomes the actual official first king of the Zhou dynasty because King Wen dies before his clan is able to achieve victory and seize power. Inheriting his father and mother's wisdom, he establishes a dynasty that reigns for 800 years, even though he himself is king for only 3 years before he succumbs to his battle wounds. Per mythologized storytelling history, King Wu of Zhou prevails because of his allies, not just the tribal princes who back his campaign, but gods and goddesses as well. Nu Hua, the sister wife of Fu Xi, the Jade Lake Golden Mother, better known as Xi Wang Mu, the Queen Mother of the West, and Yuan Shi Tianzun, the lead of the 3 pure ones and one of the primordial sovereign gods of heaven in the Taoist pantheon. There's this fantastical story of him dying, but then because he had 3 Fu talismans that he carried on him for protection, he was revived back to life. Under King Wu's reign, the Zhou dynasty got rid of human sacrifice and instead opted for music and ceremony as the ways to honor the gods. This emphasis on rites and ritual would come to have a profound influence on China for the next 3,000 years.
King Wu, the son of King Wen, personifies the topmost line of an I Ching hexagram, line 6, because he represents the one who embodies the mandate of heaven, whereas it was King Wen in line 5 who receives the mandate. Line 5 is knowing one's destiny. Line 6 is actually walking it. In a narrative arc of the story of change, line 6, King Wu, is the denouement. He represents what the future cycles of change will look like. He is the completion and aftermath of change.
Oh, and just to recap, this guy, King Wen, who we talked about earlier, is the dad, credited with giving us the I Ching 64 hexagrams. This guy, King Wu, is King Wen's son who becomes the first king of the Zhou dynasty. And this guy is another one of King Wen's sons, King Wu's brother, known as the Duke of Zhou, who writes the line text for the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. We touch on all this backstory in the introductory video to the I Ching, which I'll link in the video description box.
What else can we learn from these 6 kings?
Well, fortunately, we are not lacking in historical material. Between 500 BC to 500 AD, it was like every classical school of philosophy in China had to name drop Yao Xuan Yu Tang Wen Wu, oft referred to as the 6 Sheng Wang, sage kings, spanning 3 dynasties, San Dai. Anytime historical records talked about what to do as a good and wise ruler, they would cite the 6 sage kings. Mozi, from around the 5th and 4th centuries BCE, was a philosopher, scientist, and military strategist who was a counterpoint and contrasting polarity to Confucianist thought. According to Mozi, a wise king listens to the voices of the incarcerated to best understand how to govern the kingdom. Go to bed late and wake up early. Do not judge by rich versus poor, high status versus low status, near or far, meaning domestic or distant, but rather judge by wise and thus worthy versus foolish and thus unworthy. One who governs must, as basic requirements, love the people and serve their benefit. Mozi says that these tenets are how you rule in accordance with the 6 ancestral sage kings. Mozi talked about the 6 sage kings a lot actually. On screen, I'm highlighting in yellow the many instances in his texts where he calls out these 6 sage kings as the paragon of wise rule and what it means to be a wise ruler. Synthesizing some of the passages here, he notes that these 6 sage kings model the ideal practices, which are to honor and venerate heaven, to fulfill our duties and obligations to Gui, demons, ghosts, hell beings, and lower vibrational or yin spirits, and must love I, the people, and serve for their benefit, Li. Li is a term that means to care for and confer benefit to others, philanthropic love. Hilariously, he's self-aware and calls himself out for how frequently he cites the 6 sage kings. He says, "Why do I keep talking about and valuing the ways of the 6 sage kings? Because they're the best of the best."
I may have paraphrased a little bit there, but basically that's what Mozi said. For me, a memorable point that Mozi brought up is, if you truly care about how best to govern a kingdom, then you need to listen to the voices and perspectives of your incarcerated. There is a guiding principle there that really is worth taking in, that I've integrated into my values.
Summary of the legalist texts: pessimistic if you ask me. Humans are full of malice and pride, according to legalism. Only laws can curb our malice and pride, and those laws need to be based on the guidance, the Tao, from the 6 sage kings of the 3 dynasties. Zhao, one of the 100 schools of philosophical thought, an eclectic school that tried to merge Taoism, Confucianism, Mozi, and legalism, says that the 6 sage kings teach us to do even the smallest good deed to the best of our ability, and for even the smallest error, most minor of infractions, make sure you correct it. Tailor our morality and ethics to the 6 sage kings of the 3 dynasties.
As for Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, and for some context, citing Sima Qian is akin to, quoting Herodotus from ancient Greece, meaning he was a very big deal ancient historian. In Records of the Grand Historian, Sima Qian basically says that any wise ruler of history will have aligned themselves with the wisdom and the Tao of the 6 sage kings. And any infamously bad ruler was one who did not follow the wisdom and the Tao of the 6 sage kings.
Sima Qian also quotes from the I Ching Hexagram 1, Heaven over Heaven, line 5, the ruling line, a particularly significant line of the I that bears so many different layers of meaning. 飞龙在天，利剑大人. There is a flying dragon in the heavens, or flying dragon seen in the skies. This can be an astrological omen referring to the Qing Long, or azure dragon. Such an omen means that at this time it is favorable to meet the eminent one. And that's dragon or dragons, singular or plural, and eminent one or eminent ones, plural. Hence, Sima Qian draws the comparison to the 6 sage kings. All that is to say, the 6 ancestral sage kings in totality personify the Tao, and that the way of these 6 kings are connected to the way of heaven, Tianzhi Dao, which we covered in the preceding video.
The legends and the implications behind those legends of these 6 holy kings are relevant in Taoism because they define and personify the school of thought's first principles, which is to say core concepts, the essential properties, and the theoretical basis for the tradition. The implications of these 6 holy kings guide us on how to interpret the lines of code in I Ching hexagrams, which goes straight to the heart of Taoist metaphysics. Oh, and it's just really fun cultural knowledge. Over on the esoteric side of Taoist beliefs and practice, in contrast to the exoteric public-facing aspects of Taoism, 6 is associated with the mysteries. And so I wanted to point out some of the signposts you will see if you choose to dive deeper into the Taoist canons. Even in the Guanyin, an important sutra of magical spells for attaining primordial truth, Chapter 6 is the 6 daggers. The Book of 3 Sovereigns, among many other texts like Jing Fang's commentaries on the I Ching and the Huangdi Nei Jing on traditional Chinese medicine, all refer to the 6 powers. Yes, the striking similarity of the ideograms is not insignificant. And they always refer back to the 6 Akasha, my English translation for the term liu xu. Then there's what we learn about the Tao from the mythology of the 6 holy kings. In review, 1. Honor and venerate heaven, which is to say align your path with the way of heaven, 天之道. 2. Fulfill your duties and obligations to gui, meaning demons, hungry ghosts, but it also means the grotesque, those whose society have deemed as the grotesque. You cannot cast them away or neglect them. You have a moral obligation to honor their dignity. Back to Hexagram 1, line 5. One way Taoist scholars and mystics have interpreted that line is to embody the dragon in heaven means to have mastered the way of heaven, 天之道. The way to that, the Tao, is by receiving the divine transmissions of these 6 kings. That concept I was talking about earlier, tǒng. I refer to this particular presentation of the myths of these 6 kings as mysteries, because this is the core occult philosophy or principles embedded in many of the secret Taoist rites, ceremonies, and rituals. It's also revelation of the key to immortality, which itself is a Taoist mystery to unpack. What exactly do we mean by immortality? Mythology is storytelling for revealing core truths and passing on hard-won wisdom. To take the legends of the 6 holy kings literally and then dismiss them as mere fictions is missing the point of what our own ancestors were trying to preserve and pass down to us. Finally, I want to take some time to say thank you, truly, truly thank you, to those of you who have been helping to boost my channel's visibility. I know my content can be a little nerdy and intense for most people, and so without your help, really, I would get ignored by the algorithm gods. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do to help placate the algorithm.